What's going on, everybody? I decided to take Phainon to Eurilo 6, where everything is nice and chill. This guy needs a break really bad. So today, I actually got to play Phainon for the first time, and I'm gonna be telling you guys my first impressions of the character and showing you guys kind of what he does, how he plays, and everything like that. Now, I have to stop him from doing his idol, and I need to give you a warning that this video will have some story-related spoilers. And when I say story, I don't mean 3.3, I mean 3.4, because this guy's kit has to do with things that happen in 3.4. So if you don't want any story spoilers, I don't recommend you watch any Phainon content until you're ready for it. But if you're okay with the idea of like maybe finding out like something that happens, you know, keep watching. Anyways, my general first impressions of this character is that he's crazy. I love how he plays. He's so fun. But I will give you more details at the end after I've told you everything there is to know about him. Before we go further, I do need to let you know that this is on the creator experience server for 3.4, so everything is subject to change. And with that being said, my name is Braxophone. You can call me Brax. And let's talk about Phainon. All right, for today's showcase, I'm gonna be using On the Fall of an Aeon. That's because it's a free-to-play friendly light cone that everyone has. And then also on top of that, I'm going to be using the 4-piece Wave Strider Captain set and the 2-piece Arcadia Evolved Dream set. As you'll notice, his speed is actually very low. That is because we are running an attack boots build on him. However, you can run speed boots, and I'll talk about the difference after the showcase. I'm gonna be running attack for our purposes and our team though. The stats are crit rate, attack, physical damage, and attack again. And with all that being said, oh wait, one more thing. No, Eidolon's activated. Okay, with all that being said, let me show you what this guy does. All right, so here we are against Varog. Now, this is first half of MOC, and honestly, guys, this is not the shill one. The second half is the shill side for Phainon. So we're playing him against the worst one, and we're playing him in a completely free-to-play friendly team because even free-to-play players can get access to Bronya at some point if they haven't already picked her from a selector. We're gonna be running Remembrance Trailblazer as well, and we're gonna have our Tingyun. So that is gonna be our 4-star pick. Remembrance Trailblazer and Tingyun are both E6. We're gonna use Tingyun's technique, Bronya's technique, and then Phainon's. But before I use Phainon's, as you can see, he has up to 8 technique points, and his technique costs 2. That's because it does so goddamn much. This guy gives your entire team 25 energy upon entering battle. On top of that, it's also gonna give him a 50% attack buff permanently. He gets 50% attack after the end of his ult and upon entering battle his technique. And then we are not going to be using Remembrance Trailblazers because we're gonna try to get hit. All right, let's get going. Also, if you hit a normal enemy with this technique, that is so cool, by the way, they just die, much like Acheron. So that's pretty cool as well. Now, before I hit anything, before I do any of that, there's a couple things that you need to know. First off, as you can see, his energy is 1 of 12. This does not mean he only needs 12 energy. This means he needs 12 core flames, and those core flames are gained by things targeting him. As soon as he's targeted by something, he gets 1 core flame. And then on top of that, he can get 2 core flames from using his skill. His basic attack gives him 0, but you can use a basic straight into his ult if you need skill points after the fact. So that is something that you can do. He also has a passive trait that makes it so that if an ally gives him energy, he actually gets another core flame from that energy gain. So Tingyun's a great free-to-play partner for him because she's able to give him energy with her ultimate. On top of that, when an ally targets him, he also will get a 30% crit damage buff, which is kind of nice. And once again, On the Fall of an Aeon, I'm playing Remembrance MC with a 3-star light cone. I have some cool tech to show you with that. We are running But the Battle Isn't Over on Bronya just for that skill point that we can get back. And then we're also running Dreamville Adventure, which is the craftable 4-star, running this on Tingyun. The reason we're not running Dance 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 is because we don't want to mess up the speed tuning. This entire thing has been perfectly calculated, and I can't wait to show you. But yeah, you might notice that we have 5 skill points right here, by the way. I'm running Passerby of Wandering Clouds on Remembrance MC. This is a part of the tech and a part of the experience. This is actually very important for this team that we're running. So we're running Shadow Burn, which gives you a skill point back after summoning your Memo Sprite and 20 energy. And then you also, yeah, no, it's so important. So we're at 5 skill points starting, and as soon as we use our skill, we're gonna get 1 back. All right, so we're gonna do this first. We're gonna summon Mem, puts us at 95, and then we're going to target Phainon. We're gonna give him 2 core flames from this targeting, 1 from him actually being targeted and 1 from the energy. And actually, let me move my camera out of the way so you guys can see the rest of this. He's at 3 now, as you can tell. He does get 1 from using his technique, so everything is still adding up perfectly. We're still at 5 skill points because we use Shadow Burn on Remembrance MC. And then we're gonna go ahead and use our skill on Phainon. That's gonna give him 4 core flames. So now we just need to get someone to take some energy. All right, cool. And as you can see, due to our intense calculations here, we actually pulled Phainon ahead of Bronya, so that way we can skill Bronya and then skill him again. And now he has the true damage as well, so that's pretty cool. He also got 1 core flame from being targeted by the enemy and 1 core flame from Mem, so that's pretty dope. He's gonna get 2 from using his skill here. Puts him up to 9. And then we're gonna skill him forward with Bronya. gives him 10. We're gonna use Bronya's ultimate, gives him 11. And then when we skill again, we're gonna ult right after, so that way we can snapshot Bronya's buffs. This is where it gets spoilery. So if you guys, I mean, this is your last chance. This is your last warning. This is gonna look really cool though. Okay, here we go. Oh my gosh, dude, his attacks are sewed up. 277k, pretty good. And I f***ed it up. Just kidding, I didn't mess it up. We got it while the enemy was doing their obligatory thing. Oh my god, dude. It looks so sick. All right, so this is, I mean, I don't even know what to say about him, dude. He's so dope. So this is our Phainon right now. As you can see, he has a ton more HP. Let me just tell you a little bit about him before we do any of the attack. This is absolute cinema. 10k HP now. So he actually gets a 270% HP bonus and an 80% attack bonus when he goes into this form. He's also immune to crowd control debuffs, and he gets his own skill point system. And even more beautiful than that, he has 3 different abilities that he can use right now. So that's pretty dang cool. Now he has his own skill point system, as I mentioned before. That is the 6 out of 4 you see right here. Basically, the blast will give him 2 skill points. The enhance will give him as many skill points as there are enemies, and it'll move up the enemies so that way they attack him. And then this will cost 4 skill points. So how does this actually work? Essentially, we're going to want to be using this bounce skill as much as possible. And as you can see, he actually has taken over the action order pretty thoroughly. There's not a single one of our allies here. When he opened up his domain expansion, I guess the other ones weren't absorbed. But as you can see, Phainon gets 8 bonus turns, and those bonus turns are all extra actions. So even though the turn order is going and you can go into the next cycle, they are all extra actions, meaning he doesn't lose any of his buffs until the last turn, which is an actual turn. That means that Bronya, even though she has 1 turn worth of buffs with her action forward at E0, he can maintain the damage bonus on her the entire time. So I guess I'll just show you how he works here. Let's get into it. Dude, I'm so stoked. Just listen to this. Absolute cinema. Oh my god, 1.1 million damage. Free to play light cone, by the way. Free to play team, by the way. That is so crazy. 1.1 million damage from that. Absolutely disgusting, and it's a gorgeous ultimate. I know where all of the budget for all of the previous Amphorius patches went, and it went to the end of 3.3, and this is so crazy. But now you'll notice that we have 2 out of 4 skill points, so we need to get some more. Now, I would use this counter, this is a counter, which would action forward the enemies and make them attack me, and then the more enemies that hit me, the more damage I would do back. I would use this counter, but it actually does slightly less damage on 2 targets. You actually want to only use this on 3 targets or more. It also gives you 1 skill point for every target that exists, actually. So if there's 3 or more enemies, it's better to use that than blast. But we're going to go ahead and use his blast AoE here. And oh my gosh, pay attention to this, guys. Oh my god, it looks so sick. All right, and one more time. We get to planetary devastation straight out of Naruto. This is so crazy. The final days and all. 1.3 mil for that one. Absolutely insane. We must have gotten some crazy crit luck there, but you know what? We take those. That's pretty dang good. All right, so there's 2 enemies here, and I'm going to show you guys a cool tech towards the end of this, but we're going to go ahead and just, we're just going to go ahead and basic attack and get on with this. 169k, nothing too crazy. We go again, 210k. And Svarog's gonna keep attacking us. Oh, one thing I did fail to mention is that you do heal every time you attack in this form. So that is pretty dang cool. We're gonna finally drop some meteors on him. Deserved, honestly. I hate these guys. All right, now we're on our second to last turn. Our last turn is right here in the red. I'm gonna go ahead and counter, and the reason I'm gonna counter is this is actually a Svarog tech where you can pull him up, and by forcing him up, you actually summon the hand, and then you get to full damage attack the hand, which is kind of cool. So we're gonna force him to send out his hand, so that way we don't have to worry about it instantly nabbing us. So here we go. Here's the counter. Svarog's gonna attack. Oh, he's gonna summon his hand, and then he's gonna missile us. Huge. All right, now watch this. Oh my god. And I took that personally. 279,000 damage. And this is the final turn. It automatically plays. So another 500k. Oh, and Angel has lost his wings. I missed that guy. All right, so now we gotta be careful with our skill points, right? Because we only have 2 left. And this is kind of what I was talking about before, where even with 2 bonus skill points at the start, this is such an SP heavy thing. So we are gonna get to basic attack with Tingyun, but I'm also gonna basic attack with Remembrance Trailblazer here. And we're gonna basic attack this thing just so it doesn't activate and get really annoying, because that would be not ideal. Okay, he's gonna take a punch from Svarog. He's gonna take a laser from Svarog. Honestly, dude, pretty sick, man. All right, he's taking more. Oh my god, look how many core flames he's gonna get. So actually, as a heads up, guys, I did have to splice this together from from the other fight, the other run, because instead of Phainon taking all the hits, it was just Tingyun. I'm sure that comes as a surprise to many of you. So this is a different run, but it basically, all the steps are the same to get here. I didn't change anything. All right, so we're gonna basic attack here. That way we have tons of skill points. We're gonna action forward Phainon. He's gonna have 8 core flames. Now he's gonna have 10 core flames, which is absolutely disgusting. Luckily, we wouldn't have to worry about Tingyun's buff expiring if it was the same turn, but it would expire right after. That'd be kind of annoying. So we're gonna go ahead and just skill him anyways, just so we don't have to worry about it. And we'll also get her ult, which is kind of nice, so we can use that on him immediately as well. Then he's gonna get even more core flames, and then Remembrance MCZ, Mem is gonna pull us forward. And now I have a couple different options. The smartest thing to do would actually be to basic attack here, because by basic attacking, I would not have to worry about skill points for the next rotation. And I'm already ahead on core flames, so let's just do it. I'm just gonna basic attack here. This is the only case where you'd ever wanna do that. It's just for SP. We don't have Sunday, and we don't have any other SP gens, so it's just the safest thing to do. Plus, we're gonna get to heal here before Svarog gets to attack, which is super nice, because that was gonna be a big problem for us if he got to just start attacking. Now there's no point to us using counter except for on the next Svarog action if we want to action forward the hand, but even then the damage is going to be lower, so we'll have to see what we do. The bounce should all hit Svarog this time. Holy. Now we are minus a Bronya buff, and this is the biggest downside to Bronya over someone like Sunday or basically any other action forwards in the game right now, is that Bronya has only 1 turn worth of buff, and if you don't use his ult right after Bronya's, then you're just missing out on it entirely. So that is something to keep in mind, you guys. I'm gonna go ahead and use this basic attack twice, so that way we can get our bounce back. Absolutely massive. Oh, he's gonna laser us. Okay. Now we get this bounce skill, and hopefully we can knock him out before the end here, but we'll see if that happens. I don't know. Oh my god, 1%. We do it. Okay, so there we go. 2 cycles. Absolute cinema. There we go. Holy. Yeah, so that was a completely free-to-play setup, by the way. Now that team, I think I mentioned it before, but that team is pretty hit or miss with how well it performs, just based on how the enemies attack you, where your bounces go, and all of that stuff. So it'll be something you get used to while playing him, but he is super fun and super cool, and honestly, I just love playing this guy. Now, if you want to see how free-to-play friendly the other setup was, we're running 165 speed on RMC. Now, this is pretty fast. You do need some crazy relics for this, but we're running that 3-star light cone, as I mentioned before, and then we are running 135 speed Bronya. Now, what you should be doing, if you're running slow Phainon, you should be running insanely fast Bronya. You should be running like 161 minimum, maybe 162 even. But the problem is that I know a lot of you guys don't necessarily have the relics to get a super fast, super speedy Bronya and have some decent crit. And so I wanted to make it pretty relatable. If you use a faster Bronya, like a 161 speed, you can even, on a free-to-play setup, you can even one cycle with this guy, which is pretty impressive. And then Tingyun's super fast, but I mean, this isn't difficult because she overcaps on so much attack. You just spam her with speed sets, and that's pretty normal. But speaking of builds, let's go over the light cone and relic stuff a little bit more in detail. All right, so let's talk about Phainon's light cone situation a little bit. So the thing is with Phainon is he has very low base attack. Like if we go look at his stats, this guy's attack 1111 right now. That's not very high. If we take off his light cone, 582. That's like only slightly higher than the base attack of of this light cone on the Ball of an Aeon. And to put into perspective how crazy this difference is, Kafka, 679, Jingyuan, 698, Acheron, 698, Aglaya, 698. Dude, even Yen Qing has 679. So this guy's just gotta be trolling at this point. So 582 base attack, and he gets a ridiculous amount of attack percent buffs, as you guys heard from my explanation of his kit. So what does that mean? It means that high base attack light cones make a pretty big difference for him overall, but there are no base attack light cones quite as high as his signature. Phainon's signature light cone has a base attack of 687. Now, we can compare that to every other light cone in the game right now. And I don't think there's another one that has 687. I think that is the highest base attack light cone we've ever had. So with that in mind, it's a pretty big deal for him. Now, it's not a must-have. Like, you're not gonna die without it or anything, right? Like, obviously, we just used a Fall of an Aeon and cleared in 2 cycles with a completely free-to-play team. Imagine what we could do with a stronger team. And it increases his base speed by 12, which is also crazy. That's a base speed increase. That's not a regular speed increase. That means for every like 1% speed that you get, you're also getting an extra 1 speed. So yeah, if you have speed buffs, that's going to affect it. I mean, there's not a ton of speed buffs that's going to affect a ton, but it'll affect it by a little bit. A tiny little bit. Even if it's like a 10% speed buff, that's plus 1 more speed. Wow, very cool. It also makes it that when he deals damage, it ignores 18% of the target's defense, which is crazy. And then after the wearer uses their ultimate, which is him, obtains Blazing Sun, which is removed at the start of their turn, which is the last hit of his ultimate. So while he has Blazing Sun, you're getting 60% damage bonus, which is really nice. So all things considered, this light cone is pretty dang crazy for him. Now you can use other ones, and I'm gonna go over some of those now. So here's sort of a light cone chart. Here's his light cone, his base light cone here. And then here's Aeon S5. So honestly, compared to other characters, his light cone is more or less in line. About a 20 to 30% increase in overall damage from the best free-to-play option, which is going to be on the Fall of an Aeon. But surprisingly, if you have Brighter Than the Sun, which is the Dan Heng light cone, this one is pretty dang good too, just because it has such a high base attack. You get the crit increase, you get the attack bonus, and the ER doesn't really do anything for you, but overall it has good stats. And then also Clara's light cone gets some decent results. So if you have something irreplaceable, that can also be pretty good. Generally speaking though, if you were gonna use S1 something irreplaceable, I would just go for On the Fall of an Aeon. I mean, it's the free Her to Shop light cone. There's not really many other options you're going to want to choose over it. You could use a Trail of Bygone Blood, which is the new Battle Pass light cone if you wanted to. However, that's still not going to be better than all of On the Fall of an Aeon, even at S5. So the only reason not to use this is if you're using the Her to light cone on another destruction unit at the same time. But otherwise, I would just use this if you don't have a signature. Now, on the topic of relics, there's a couple things that I did intentionally in this video to try and showcase some weird optimization things. So as an example, typically I would say if you're going to run attack boots on Phainon, you should be running hyperspeed Bronya, hyperspeed Sunday. That's because this, with attack boots, you can actually get better results typically, and actually a lot more consistently with hyperspeed Sunday and Bronya as well. With attack boots, you'd run typically 161 speed Bronya and 162 speed Sunday. You'd want to make them super fast. It can be a lot of investment, and not a lot of players are able to consistently do that sort of thing. So what I recommend to you guys to do instead, if you guys want to make it nice and easy and have a consistent time playing them, is actually running speed boots. So basically, if you run speed boots, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to make sure that Bronya is like 136, 137-ish speed if you want to be extra safe, and then you want Sunday to be a little bit faster than her. And the reason is because you're going to want Sunday to pull up Phainon. The downside to this is that if you don't have Sunday's light cone, this is hell, and you probably will not survive. You will probably not be able to do this without Sunday's light cone. However, if you do have Bronya's light cone with super impositions, or if you do have E2 Bronya even, or even E1 Bronya, guys, it can make a difference. It can be doable, but the biggest thing about Phainon, the hardest thing about Phainon aside from him when he sees Mighty, is that if you choose to run this guy at all, he's going to eat up so many skill points. But if you guys are interested in seeing how that sort of works, you just got to make sure that Phainon is slightly ahead of Sunday and Bronya in speed, and that's honestly not too difficult to do. Actually, I do have a rope that is catered to this very specific thing. Wow, I have 6 speed now. So now I'm at 142. Phainon will act. Then what will happen after that is Sunday will act and pull Phainon up, and then after that, Bronya will act and pull Phainon up. And by then, you definitely have enough core flames to go into your ult, and thank you, Bronya, with all of your 1 turn long buffs. Great. So I would say that speed is easier to build because you actually don't need as much speed and as much crit damage on Bronya and Sunday. However, you don't have Sunday's light cone, it can cause some issues for you. That's why I highly recommend, if you want to save yourself the hassle of not having Sunday's light cone, you can get that first rotation done by running Passerby of Wandering Cloud with the extra skill point, and by running Shadow Burn on your MC. This is some really dank stuff, you guys, but it works. It really does. And if you don't have Sunday, you can just run like 161 Bronya, slightly faster. Remember, it's Trailblazer. You could run a different support. You could run Ron Mei. You could run Ting Yun. Either of them are fine. You can just basic attack with Bronya right off the bat, and then action forward Phainon because she's already like super fast. You won't have to worry about skill points. It'll be fine. And that way you can get pretty solid damage too. So attacker speed works. So for his build in total, I'm running crit rate on the body, speed, physical damage, and attack. But you can also run attack on the orb, and sometimes that ends up being better. Specifically, if you're not running Ting Yun, that extra attack could be really big because you're going to be having so many damage bonuses from someone like Sunday and Bronya. Also, funny enough, Rudolent Arena ends up being a pretty good set on him, but I'll go into more details on that in my guide. Been yapping for a long time. Let's get back to the team. So this is the free-to-play team that I used, but you can use Sunday, and if you were going to use Sunday, I would replace Ting Yun with Sunday here just because Remembrance MC Bronya Sunday is the strongest team for Phainon right now. Now, in terms of other supports you can also use Ron Mei, you can use Tribi, you can use Yukong, and then Sunday here I have as well because he's not in this initial team. Ron Mei's pretty strong actually with the damage bonuses that she can give just passively, and she also gives speed, which again with his light cone will give you a little bit of extra value. Now the downside of Ron Mei is that it is nice for Phainon to take damage because he gets more core flames, and if the enemy is like chain stunned, that's going to be a little less valuable, but Ron Mei is great. Tribi is also fantastic. I mean, it's so hard to beat the res pet and the vulnerability. Now Yukong is a little bit weird. The thing is she actually does work, but because she buffs the next two moves after her, Phainon has to move essentially right after Yukong, and Yukong doesn't have an action forward, so you do have to be extra careful with your speed tuning. And Phainon actually, when he ends his ultimate, I didn't actually explain this, but when he ends his ultimate, he does give your team a slight speed increase, which almost sets them back where they should be for the turn priority, but it's not exact, which can mess up the speed tuning. So that is something to keep in mind. Like Yukong, yes, she does work, but she's a little bit harder to use than Bronya in that regard. So just something to keep in mind, you guys. Right now, I think what we need is another skill point giving character. You can actually use Sparkle, and she works okay. She's not bad with Phainon at all. She does give skill points, so she can solve some of those issues, but the biggest downside with her is that you have to do some dank speed tuning with her because she's only 50% action forward. So if you have Sparkle, she can work great and solve a lot of your skill point issues, but she also is kind of dank with how she pulls up characters. You got to do some unlimited blade work stuff there. And then, of course, Remembrance Trailblazer is amazing. This is his signature, or not signature. This is what I would consider to be his best team. Also, everyone is matching with him except for the Trailblazer because why would she match with anyone? Why would that ever happen? I love our Raccoon. The other thing that I didn't talk about, because you probably won't need this for a little bit, but you'll probably need it later, is this buff that he gets whenever he gets healing or shields from allies. So he'll get a damage increase of 45%, which is pretty dang good. However, it's not quite as good as just running another character that buffs him, right? The buffs are always going to be stronger. Like Bronya gives 66% damage bonus, which is higher, and she gives attack and crit damage. It's like kind of hard to beat that. Also, more turn opportunities. Like, yeah, you're not beating Bronya there, but you can run characters that are sustainers as well, and he will still get some buffs. But as you saw, we didn't even really need that. The only time we needed it was when we were running Ting Yun, and as you guys know, Ting Yun is a magnet to damage for some reason. I still to this day think there has to be an error in her code, guys. There's no way. Anyways, if you're looking for what sustainers to run, I highly recommend Huohuo if you can afford to. E1 does make it really easy to run her, but she is an SP negative character if you are going to be running her at maximum capacity. You might not need to run her at maximum capacity though, I won't lie. Like, you could probably get away without her healing a turn or two. So it's probably fine. She does give attack bonus to your full team, and on top of that, so when she heals, she can target him, but also on top of that, she does give energy to your full team. So, you know, more stacks for Phainon, of course. And also, I mean, just any healers and shielders are going to be fine, but anyone who gives energy is going to be best. That's why Sunday is so valuable for Phainon, by the way, because not only are his buffs, you know, just going to be stronger than Bronya's for him and last longer, but he also gives energy, which is going to give Phainon extra stacks. Like, these two are inseparable, and they honestly follow so many of the same motifs in their clothing and honestly how they pose themselves. You guys should look at their splash arts if you don't believe me. It's pretty crazy. Anyways, the last thing to talk about is Eidolons, and I'll try to be brief with them because I know I've been yapping a lot this video. All right, so Phainon's Eidolons are pretty, I mean, they don't look super straightforward, but they are. So something I didn't explain about his ultimate and how it gives him turn order is essentially whenever he transforms, he sort of like inherits a percentage of his base speed. And this essentially just makes that so those turns are going to move a little bit faster. And then also when you use his ultimate, it increases crit damage by 50% for up to 3 turns, which is, it's pretty big. Honestly, E1 is like a decent increase. It's not going to be super ridiculous though. It just means that your second use of his ultimate is going to fit more attacks into one cycle based on the amount of enemies that you defeat while he's transformed the first first time. E2 is pretty ridiculous though, as they usually are. Essentially, he gets physical res pen up by 20%, which is already big. It makes it so that when you use 4 of his skill points to use the meteor attack, he gets an extra turn. And since you can use about 3 of those, you're getting 3 extra turns per usage, which is a lot more damage. Now, the downside to that would be the speed inheritance. It doesn't just like freeze, but it also makes it so that when you use 4 skill points for his meteor attack, he's gonna gain an extra turn every usage. So he's going to have a total of like 3 extra turns in his ultimate, which is so crazy. Ultimately, that ends up becoming like an extra meteor fall and an extra 2 basics or counters or whatever you want that to be. E3 is an ultimate and basic attack level up, and E4 makes it so that whenever you use his counter attack, he gets 4 stacks of damage bonus immediately, which is nice. E5 is a skill and talent level up, and then E6 makes it so that he has no core flame limit. He can hold more than 15 core flames, so you can do some silly cycle 0 shenanigans where you ult like right at the end of the first or the 0th cycle, and you have almost all your core flames done, and then you cycle to the next one, and you run out before the cycle ends, hopefully, and then you get one more attack, and boom, you can do another thing. I don't know, it could get really dank, but it could also be really funny. When the battle starts, you get 6 core flames by default, so with your technique, that's 7. So you'll have 7 out of 12 immediately, which is God. Let's just start real quick. And then when you use his 4 skill point attack, he also deals true damage equal to 36% of the total bounce damage to the highest HP enemy, which forces them to take a ridiculous amount of damage, regardless of any like changing buffs that may happen or things that stack up. Like you don't have to worry about any of that because it's true damage. So obviously E6 is going to be a huge jump. It's an E6, guys. E2 is a pretty massive jump. It's one of the biggest ones we've seen so far in an E2 in all of the Hoyo games. And then E6 is also a very big jump, but E1 is just like, all right, it's about what you'd expect. I would prioritize right now, as of my first impressions, just the little time I've spent with him, I would prioritize his light cone over E1. E2 definitely over just his light code, but I don't know anyone that's going to pick E2 over 1 light cone because that doesn't mathematically add up. Why would you pick that? That's going to cost you a lot more money. It's not equal. But yeah, guys, he's pretty dang sick. You know, my first impressions of the character, I'm going to tell you straight up, if you're a 0 cycle guy, 0 cycling with Phainon is actually quite difficult. And the reason is because he has all of his burst in one sort of phase, where if you don't actually defeat all of the enemies in both cycles before his ult is up, then he's just kind of left to dry without another ult ready. Like he can be pretty front loaded, like you can get his ult quickly, but his second ult is not as easy to get quickly. You still have some downtime. And because he can only hold 3 extra core flames, you can't like overstack them a ton. So a lot of the time, like 0 cycling with him is very difficult. 1 cycling with him is pretty dang easy though. He is a very strong character. It's just that it's all very front loaded, and then you have nothing for a bit, and the cycle's gonna turn over in that time while you have nothing. Or you could save it for the back end, but then your cycle's gonna turn over either way, right? So 0 cycling with him is hard. It's not impossible. It can be done, I am sure, especially if he gets more supports in the future that give him more skill points, and then you can just like ball out on action forward. That would be dope. But as of right now, he's definitely like a 1 to 3 cycle champ. Very strong character out of the box, and as you guys can see, he's very free to play accessible. So my first impressions of Phainon, he's a great unit. Highly recommend if you like the character, and if you're just looking for someone that can clear end game content, you're not gonna struggle for a while. I can't really think of many characters who are countering this guy right now, or characters, I guess enemies that are countering this guy right now. I mean, maybe Hule would give him a run for his money, but I feel like he has so much damage reduction that it's just probably not going to be a big issue. Oh, and one thing that I need to mention, sorry, this will be my last big thing. He's quite the monster, quite the menace in Pure Fiction. Pure Fiction, this guy is crazy good. I should have said this earlier in the video, but if you guys are still here and you're just trying to hear my impressions, dude, Pure Fiction, you counter, kill them all, counter, kill them all, counter, kill them all, counter, kill them all. It takes a long time because you have to wait for them all to attack over and over, but you get so many stacks of damage bonus, he just absolutely smashes them. So you meteor, counter, meteor, counter, meteor, counter, meteor, counter, and it's nuts. And I think in some instances, countering might even be better than meteoring since you're just gonna be one-shotting them all anyway. So I don't know, guys, it's pretty crazy. Pure Fiction monster right here. Highly recommend this. He just unkillable machine. He said, let me solo her or them or the traffic lights. Let him solo the traffic lights. I don't know why you're still here, but thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate it. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. I'll see you. Dude, I got like 50 videos coming out. Turn on the notifications right now. Do it now. Do it.